So you've been watching all the YouTube videos and you see all these people who are living on cruise ships, including me, and you're just about ready to sell your house, pack everything up, and come and live on a cruise ship. Before you do that, there are some things that you need to know. It's not all paradise and glitz and glamour, but there are some things that might make you pause. So before you do that, let's get into the downsides of living on a cruise ship, especially living solo on a cruise ship like I am. Hey y'all, if you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're not, welcome back. I'm Linnell. I sold everything and now I live on cruise ships full time. I sold my house, left a toxic marriage, quit a toxic job, and now I travel the world with just a small suitcase and a backpack. If this video is a blessing to you, I want to encourage you to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and then turn on notifications. Hit the bell for all notifications so that you never ever miss another video. And follow me on my journey from poverty to paradise. The first thing, space. Oh my goodness. Okay, so take your current bedroom, cut it in half. Now squeeze a queen size bed and a couple of nightstands and everything that you need to live into that half of a bedroom. That's what your cabin is gonna look like, okay? And then the bathroom, I mean, if you've been on a cruise, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, it's about the size, I would say take your current bathroom and cut that in half, and that's what your bathroom is. And sometimes it's even smaller than that. Some cruise cabin bathrooms can be small, like picture the, if you've been on an airplane before, picture the airplane lavatories. Yeah. A lot of people have talked about how they have to parallel park when they're getting into the shower. That space can definitely make you rethink living on a cruise ship. All right, so the next thing is noise. The cabins on cruise ships are paper thin. So if you're the type of person that you might want to spend a significant amount of time in your cabin like I do, then you have to think about that, because when I'm sailing, especially if there's a connecting room, but even if it's not a connecting room, even if it's just a room even if it's an interior room and the only way out is through the door, the walls can still be paper thin. I have heard so many things while I'm in my cabin that was disturbing to me, where I put the pillow over my head, I put earplugs in. A few times I had to call guest services to let them know what's going on, but you hear everything. You hear things from, like, depending on what deck you're on, you might hear the noise from the theater, you might hear karaoke singing at 2 o'clock in the morning, you might hear, one time I had the scraping of the pool chairs up on the Lido deck because I was on the deck below it. And I just couldn't sleep, so I ended up having insomnia that whole night. And also the neighbors, right? So you know what I'm talking about, right? We can hear their extracurricular activities. I've heard people snoring. I've heard people's arguments. I've even heard people's TVs being blasted. So yeah, if noise is something that would get to you, that you couldn't push past like I do, then you again might want to rethink living on a cruise ship. Another thing to consider is people. Being an introvert, I'm not a shy person, but I am very quiet and I am very introverted. So like when I see people signing up for Family Feud and stuff like that, and sometimes they'll ask me to join them, I can't participate in the Family Feud because I don't think quickly. I'm introverted. I have to think about things before I do them, before I say them. And a lot of times people misunderstand what introverts are, so I won't get into that subject, but a lot of times I just enjoy my own company. I love being by myself. I love doing things by myself. Being that I grew up in Orlando, I also love crowds because I was a Disney baby, so I love watching the parades and hanging out with other people. And then again, I was one of 7 kids, so I always had people around me from the time that I grew up and having a family. So traveling solo right now is very different for me, and I'm really getting to explore myself. But if you are an introverted person and you don't like to be socially interactive, you might want to rethink living on a cruise ship, because you are going to be in places and people are going to talk to you. You're going to be on elevators, you're going to be in the dining room. Even if you get a private table, somebody's going to come and say, hey, how you doing, and strike up a conversation with you. And you are on a ship, so unless you stay in your room the whole time, which I don't suggest you do, because you're missing out on all of the fun things about cruising, right? So unless you're gonna stay in your cabin the whole time, you're gonna see that same chatty couple at breakfast, lunch, dinner. You're gonna see them on the Lido deck. You'll see them in the hallways, on the elevator, and you cannot escape from them. So keep that in mind when you think about living on a cruise ship. Another thing to think about is the motion of the ocean. So a lot of people get seasick. I've never gotten seasick on a cruise before. I've come close one time in my early cruising years, but I've never actually gotten sick. Keep in mind the motion of the ocean, whether it's in the middle of the day, but usually at night, because of the lunar effect, right, with the waves. The moon, how it affects the waves. Depending on where you're at on the ship, especially if you're at the very front of the ship, and then secondly, if you're at the very back of the ship, you're going to feel the waves, the motion of the ship from the waves. And you could even possibly feel it if you're in the middle of the ship, if it's really bad. And if there's a storm out there, forget it. You're gonna feel it no matter where you're at on the cruise ship. So if the motion of the ocean bothers you, then that's something that you definitely want to think about. If you've been on a cruise before, then you've probably experienced it. And if you've never been on a cruise before, I would definitely suggest that you take a few cruises during different seasons, winter and especially hurricane season if you're in the Caribbean. But yeah, you want to think about seasickness and the waves and the motion of the ocean before you start packing your bags. The biggest drawback to a lot of people living on cruise ships are costs. And it can be very expensive, especially depending on what type of cabin that you get and what cruise line you decide to cruise with.
I cruise solo in an inside cabin for 365 days. So the total cost, including fare, tax, and tips, $82,000. So the balcony cost would be $103,000.
So yeah, living on a cruise ship can be upwards of $80,000 to $100,000 or more, and that's just for the cruise itself. That's not including any of the extras that you want to go to specialty dining, if you get some kind of craving, if you want to get pictures, if you want to get souvenirs. All that other stuff adds into the cost of cruising. Healthcare. I am 53 and I'm pretty much healthy, but a lot of people have health issues where they cannot live on the cruise ship, or they can, but they're going to have special care. So if you have some pre-existing health conditions that you need to go to your doctors on a regular basis, a lot of people go to their doctors maybe once or twice a month or a few times a year, then living on a cruise ship is probably going to cause some drawbacks for you, and you definitely want to take that into consideration. And of course, the cost of healthcare, right? So I recently went to the medical center for an ear infection, and it was the cost of just seeing the doctor was $150. And then any kind of test, any kind of medicines that you take, it's going to be way more expensive than paying for healthcare on land. And you have to keep that in mind if you have any kind of health issues, or if just an issue comes up that you weren't expecting, like an ear infection. The food on the cruise ship there are lots of different varieties of food, but depending on the type of palate that you have, what type of food you're used to, how much of a variety that you're used to. I hear a lot of people complain about the food being monotonous, and when they're on a ship, they're like, oh, I like the food and everything, but I would get way bored. I would get bored really quickly eating the same things over and over. So you do have to take that into consideration, because being on the cruise ship, especially if you're on a back-to-back cruise, or if you're going to live on the same ship for a certain amount of time. I was on one cruise ship for 2 months straight, and even though there was a lot of variety of food, every cruise, I want to say every week, but this cruise was it was 10-day cruises, 11-day cruises, and 9-day cruises, so it was longer than a week. But every segment of the cruise, the food rotated to the same meals, right? So on day one, everything is the same. on the first leg, the second leg, the third leg. On day 2, everything's the same. So it can be monotonous, and so if you're not into eating the same foods or you get bored quickly, then that's definitely something you need to take into consideration before you think about living on a cruise ship. Another thing to consider is the Wi-Fi. I've talked about that many a times. So not only the cost, as I talked about, you want to think about all the extras that you have to pay for, but if you are a person who on a regular basis, you are FaceTiming people and you're on social media all the time and you like to call your family and friends and talk, or even text, right? So the Wi-Fi on cruise ships is not very reliable. Sometimes, I would say about 75% of the time, it's great. The other 25% of the time, you want to pull your hair out because it's like, I paid for this Wi-Fi and I'm still not getting coverage. What is going on? So that's something that you need to think about. And if you're going to be doing social media like me, on Facebook, on YouTube, different streaming services, things like that, then you have to realize that you're not going to always have access to it. And if you do have access to it, it might be slow and you might get that little circle thing where it's buffering all the time. So if that's going to be an issue for you, another reason why you might want to rethink living on a cruise ship. And of course, there is the emotional side of living solo on a cruise ship, or just living on a cruise ship. Even if you're a couple, you have to think of the emotional side, right? So you're going to meet lots of different people on cruise ships, and even as they turn over, you'll get to meet other new people, right? And there's different activities that you'll be able to socialize with those other people, but it's hard to make lasting friendships because the nature of cruising is transient, right? So those people will only be on the ship with you for maybe 3, 4, 5, 7, maybe 10 days, but then after that, then they're moving on their merry way and you're staying on the cruise ship. Now, I'm not saying that you can't make friends on cruise ships. Definitely people have made friends on cruise ship, lasting friendships. They exchange phone numbers and they may go on another cruise together later, or they may meet up on land, etc. Things like that. But for the most part, especially if you're cruising solo like I am and you are living on cruise ships, then it is first of all, you have to find the people or the person that you click with. So that's going to be few and far between. But even when you do click with other people, then they get off the ship and then they go live their lives and you're still on the ship, and maybe you stay in connection with them. But again, it's possible, but it's very difficult because of the fleeting nature of people who are on and off of cruise ships. So if you are a social butterfly or a person who needs to have deep connections with another person all the time on a regular basis, then this probably is not the lifestyle for you. It can be dependent on your personality. I think some people would get lonely on a cruise ship, or they would be really sad that the people that they met and that they connected with are going on home to their families and their lives, and then they might not see that person until either they're back on land or the person meets up with them on another cruise ship. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. So now that I've gone over the cons of cruising, do you still think that you could live on a cruise ship? You still ready to sell that house and get rid of the car and all the clothes and possessions, or put all that to the side and maybe rent your house out, or whatever the case may be? Is that something that you're still thinking about? I'll tell you, when I first started doing this, I was not planning to live on cruise ships. I was going through a transition and I thought, I see some deals here. Let me go do this for 90 days while I think about what I'm going to do with my life. And it turned out that this is perfect for me. I absolutely love it, and the pros far outweigh the cons for me. So I'm going to tell you why I absolutely love cruising full-time on cruise ships and why this lifestyle is perfect for me despite all of those cons that I just went over. First, it's travel. So many people dream of traveling, but they're not able to, and I feel so blessed that not only do I get to go to paradise every week, right? Oh my goodness. I mean, I'm here right now in, where are we at? Grand Turk. And I can just get off the ship. Let's fix this camera back. Whoops. And I can just get off the ship at least 2 or 3 times, maybe 4 times a week, and just walk out the door and man, there's a beach right there. There's all kinds of activities. There's just the scenery is gorgeous, seeing different places, different cultures. Even if I don't take an excursion, which an excursion is a whole new thing, right? You can really get into what's going on in the new land. But even if I don't take an excursion, just getting off at the cruise port and walking around and meeting some of the people and tasting their foods and different things like that. And not only do I get to go to paradise, but my whole home, my cabin, all my belongings get to go with me, right? So travel is my #1 reason that I love living on a cruise ship. So if that's something that will help you overcome some of the cons, then this might be for you, okay? The next thing is hassle-free, right? So living on a cruise ship, everything is done for me. There's a chef there to cook my food and come up with great, yummy tasting menu items, right? Everything is done for me. The cabin gets cleaned on a daily basis if I want it. I don't let them clean every day for me. I'm more of a weekly type person because, I mean, that's what I used to do at home, right? I'm a clean as you go type of person, and then on the weekends or maybe once a week or whatever, you know, do detailed cleaning. But on a regular everyday basis, I just clean as I go. So but hey, you can get cleaning every day, you can get it every week, but you don't have to clean is the point. Everything is hassle free. When you need to go to a restaurant, you walk out your cabin, you go up the elevator or down the elevator, and you're right there, right? There's no hassle, there's no worrying about traffic, there's no worrying about road rage. And yeah, it's hassle-free. So I call it my soft life. So that's definitely a pro to this lifestyle. In tangent with that, of course, that means no chores, right? So, you know, if you've been on a cruise ship before, no cooking, no cleaning, depends on the perks that you get. Like with Carnival, for me, there's no laundry, there's no, pretty much I don't need to do anything except keep myself healthy and go enjoy the things that I want to enjoy. So no chores, again, a soft life, stress-free life, healthy life for me. Yeah, that's just a real blessing living on cruise ships. And even though for some people the food is a con, it's not for me. For me, the food on cruise ships is way plentiful. I have never gotten bored with the food on cruise ships, no matter which line I've been on. People ask me all the time, don't you get bored on a cruise ship? Don't you get bored with the food? Listen. Child, no. Every cruise ship that I go on, they have multiple dining venues, right? So they have the Lido deck, they have the main dining room, they have a deli, they have a burger place, they have a pizza place, and sometimes they have way more than that. But those are the basics that I know will be on every cruise ship. Then for all those different venues, let's say I ate at one place every day, right? For each of those different venues, they have multiple different food choices, right? So every day the menu changes, and at least from what I've seen, you have at least 5 or 6 different choices every night, times 7 days or times 10 days. I think I could be on a cruise ship probably for at least 6 months and eat a different meal every day. So if you are looking for a variety of foods, I don't find a problem finding a variety of food. Yes, there are some challenges as far as, do I miss some of the food at home? But yeah, you can do that anywhere, right? So when I left Orlando and I moved to Illinois, there was no Pollo Loco up there. I missed that food, right? Again, I love the food on cruise ships. There are maybe a few things that I've tried on cruise ships that just weren't for me, but that's not a problem. But again, the variety is there. The flavors are there. Everything tastes good. And again, I never get bored with the food on a cruise ship. So I am very happy with the menu choices that I have. And as far as being monotonous, I don't find that. I actually find it very that it has more variety when I would cook at home, right? So a lot of people have like I used to do, and they would have certain meals that you just eat at home. There's the Pareto principle, right? 80-20 rule. You can look that up on your own time. But yeah, for the most part, a lot of people eat the same thing. Like Mondays is whatever, spaghetti night, and Tuesdays is baked chicken and green beans night, and Wednesdays is whatever, mashed potatoes and pork chops, and Fridays is always pizza night, right? So you're eating the same things when you're on land. why do you think that would be a problem doing that on a cruise ship? I don't see a problem with it. I know every time that they have that barbecue salmon, that Emerald's barbecue salmon on the cruise ship, I'm ordering that, and hopefully it's at least once a week, because that's my jam. There's a few other things that are my jam too, but yeah, I enjoy the food. Another thing about cruising full time that's a pro is, even though the nature of cruising is fleeting, so people are on and off, there's still community. So I always say I have the best home because all of my neighbors are happy. They're all on vacation, they're all smiling, they're all glad to be away from their house and their job, and 99% of the people have a smile on their face, right? Of course, there's going to always be one or two that are grumpy, but we won't let them spoil the parade, right? But for the most part, yeah, there's community. There's always people who are, again, going to strike up a conversation with you and ask you where you're from. You find out where they're from. You get to hear some new and interesting facts about the places they live, whether it's a different city from you. They might even live in the same state but a different city. They might live in a different state. You can find out things about their state that you didn't know that was fun and interesting. Even people from other countries, it's really cool the type of people that you get to meet and interesting things. So I mentioned healthcare can be a con, but it can also be a pro. So just the fact that living on a cruise ship, you have healthcare available to you, right? Yeah, it might be a little bit more expensive, but for someone like me, who I am pretty healthy and I rarely get sick with anything major, of course, colds and minor things like that, no big deal. But if you do get something that's a little bit more advanced, you do have the medical center on board of every ship, so you don't have to worry about, what if I get an ear infection, what if I get sick, what if I get COVID, what if I hurt myself in some kind of way. Yep, no problem. You just call 911 from your stateroom, or if you're not incapacitated, you just head on the elevator, up or down, usually down. It's usually on the bottom deck. Yeah, you just head down and there's someone there who can help you with whatever situation you have. So healthcare is available for anything that you pretty much anything that you need. If you have a major emergency, yeah, you might have to be evac'd out, so you might want to consider having emergency healthcare insurance for those type of reasons. One of the best things I love about cruising, I've mentioned it a few times, but it is having the soft life. I've never been used to this. I've been working since I was 13. I've had a family, been taking care of other people, and I'm one of those people who I've never been a slacker. So when I did put myself into work, I put it in 100%, and I was always the one who was going above and beyond, even if I didn't get paid extra. I was not worried about who was watching me and things like that. I was kind of a perfectionist, wanting to make sure, especially an accountant, right? So being counter, I was great for that job. I wanted to make sure that everything was done on time, was done great, if there was a presentation, I wanted to make sure it was outstanding. I was 18 years as an apartment manager. I wanted to make sure I did everything I could to make sure that those apartments were full and all the residents were happy. So I was always going above and beyond. Now, living on cruise ships, I ain't gotta worry about none of that, right? It is a soft life for me. It is stress-free. I have other people waiting on me, hand and foot, making sure that my needs are met, whether I'm on the ship or I'm in port or I'm traveling to the different cruise, back and forth from one cruise ship to another cruise ship, whether it's the airlines, the Ubers, every part of my life, someone is waiting on me. So again, to sum it all up, there is a dark side to cruising, and if you can, like I have, get past and overcome some of those issues and realize that the charm of living on a cruise ship, the pros way outweigh the pros way outweigh the cons of living on a cruise ship, then let's do it. All right, let's start making your plans. Let's get you on your first cruise or your next cruise. Let's find you some discounts. Oh, that's another thing too. So getting over the cost of cruising, right? So you can find discounts. You can I have some videos on the channel. I'll leave a link to one right here where you can learn how to book cruises for less than what you would normally pay, and when you string them together, you get cruise discounts, especially if you are loyal to one cruise line. The more you cruise with that cruise line, the more discounts you get and the more perks you get. So yeah, I hope exposing the downside of cruising help you realize that it's not all line dancing and paradise. There are some other things to consider that may impact your decision, but if you're ready to come aboard, let's go ahead and book your first cruise or your next cruise and come on and join me in this full-time cruising life. If you like this video, make sure you click the thumbs up button. If this is your first video and you're not subscribed yet, make sure you click the subscribe button so you don't miss the next video. I'm already working on some new content that I know you will enjoy. In the meantime, check out this video right here and these videos right here while I am coming up with the next awesome video for you to see about this cruising life. Thanks for watching. I hope you have an amazing day, and I hope to see you on the next cruise.